Well, then let's talk Michigan football
All
here a
right.
little bit. They struggled in the first half against Indiana. I think it went 10-10 into halftime.
Yep.
And then just they finished the job in the fourth quarter for sure. They had worn them down. I think Indiana gave it pretty much everything they had for that first 2.5, almost 3 quarters. And then they just
I
kind of
mean,
you
they only
saw
gained
them
like
get tired.
46 yards in the second half, so it was pretty much a two-quarter thing, I would say. And
Mm-hmm.
really, they only gained like 220 yards or something. It might have been even less than that total yards, and it was mostly on a drive and a half. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I know people were like griping about the defense a little bit, but I'm like, all right, guys, like they had two very penalty and dumb play aided drives, and that was pretty much it. So I don't really have gripes about the defense. The offense, there's a few more consistency gripes, I guess, but
Mm-hmm.
Michigan pretty much dominated the second half, and that's what you're hoping to see, I guess.
So yeah, Michigan this week has Penn State, and it's going to be a maze out, so that'll be fun.
Hmm.
Penn State's undefeated though going into this game. I think are they a top 10 team now?
They are ranked 10th.
Okay, and so obviously well coached team. I do think that James Franklin's a pretty good coach.
He
Um,
makes some very dumb in-game decisions, but I think he's
he's
like
basically Dan Campbell if he was a better coach.
he's not yeah, he does do some very strange timeout and like field goal decisions where you're like,
Mhm.
what are we doing here, guys? So
But it's another team that has two really good receivers. When we looked at Maryland, we talked about like Hakeem Jarrett and um, was it and Dante Demas
yep,
has two really good receivers. But I think Penn State's got like Mitchell Tinsley and Parker Washington.
yep,
And I know those guys are good. Obviously, Sean Clifford's been playing forever, so Sean Clifford's at least experienced. Probably
yep.
still a top 4, 5 Big Ten quarterback.
I would say so.
Um, safety wise, they've got two really solid safeties, so they're pretty good deep, at least deep in the secondary. Um, Joey Porter Jr. obviously we like as well. Um,
It's a
but
good team. They've got two very good running backs, maybe even three, I'd say. Two freshmen.
I know
Nick
we like PJ Mustafer.
PJ Mustipher's a beast up front, and he was hurt for the game last year
Mhm.
against Michigan. I don't they don't scare me on offense, but they are going to try to run the ball, and there haven't hasn't been a team that we faced this year that is going to stick with the run and has the ability, I think, to stick with the run as much. Maryland probably should have a little bit more. Um, and I would say that's pretty much the only team that probably had the ability to. I mean, Indiana just couldn't block, which explains the 65% screen pass offense they were running. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously the first three teams couldn't run the ball because they were completely outmatched. Um, Iowa would have been the only other team, and that's just a terrible offense. So,
Uh-huh.
um, so that's I think the biggest test, in my opinion, is going to be um, up
Well,
front handling
yeah,
the run.
they do have inexperienced running backs. Obviously, there's I think two freshmen kind of split time.
Yeah,
I
Nick
think occasionally you
Singleton
get their
and
wasn't it Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, and
yep,
then
yep,
and then I know Kevon Lee also gets in there everyone. He's a junior, but he gets in there every
yep,
once in a while.
yep.
So yeah, they probably stick with the run a little bit more just because they have more at their disposal.
And Sean Clifford will run. Like he's a
Mhm.
very willing runner. I know his body is a broken shell of itself at this point, but he's
Yeah, even if he does make it to the NFL at this point, it doesn't seem like
he's
he's
a
going to last
very
very long.
willing runner. He's
Taking
physical and he's
Priest
tough.
Holmes punishment.
He's physical and tough. That game last year, I think Michigan had 7 sacks in that game, and I just did not understand how he kept getting up.
And then Trey Roberson finally had to get in
Yeah.
it.
So
I miss
um,
Trey Roberson for circumstances like this.
yeah, yeah. So overall, I mean, this is obviously the biggest test. It's a very good defense too. And I know they have lost a lot of pieces from last year, but Joe Porter Jr. is still really good. PJ Mustipher's a beast.
Mhm.
They've got really good linebackers. Um, this will be a test for McCarthy. I don't know. I'm not as worried about our offense. handling them as much as I worry about our defense and them kind of grinding this one out. I feel like this one's going to be very similar to the game against them last year. Michigan pulled it out. I think it'll be more high scoring, just because I think Michigan and Penn State have better offenses.
I think it's the home field advantage. I think that comforts me a little bit. A Maize Out. We talk about how difficult it is to play on a whiteout for at Penn State. Penn State coming here in a Maize Out. It's a very similar, difficult situation to play in those types of games.
Yeah, and if it was a night game, I'd feel even better about it. But it sounds like Michigan State's probably going to be the night game, which is dangerous for Ann Arbor police. But the Maize Out should be cool. It sounds like they might wear the maize jerseys, the all maize jerseys. That'd be interesting. I still would pick Michigan in this game for sure, but it's gonna be. I think the line is like 9 or 9.5. It might even be less than that now. Let's see. The line is 7 now. That seems pretty fair. But if I'm gonna pick the game, I'm gonna go like 31-21, Michigan.
21. Okay.
24.
I definitely feel like it's probably going to be a 10-point game or 8. I think it could be 28-20.
Yep.
Personally, I think best case probably 31, maybe 31-20 best case, but I think it's going to be closer than that.
Best case, I could see just an overwhelming performance, honestly, because 31-10 type thing, just like last week. But I don't really see that happening. I think Penn State's going to have some things that can exploit some of Michigan's deficiencies. I think they're going to stick with the run to keep it close. And we're going to need to see a little bit more growth out of JJ again. I think he grew last week. I know we can kind of backtrack again, but the biggest thing that I saw is when he threw that pick, which, people will say bad throw, but I actually appreciate that he just gave Ronnie Bell a shot. That linebacker made a really good play. So, okay, he throws his first pick. From the time he threw the pick on, he was 10 for 10 for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
that means he did not get in his head. And you always worry about that. Inexperienced starting quarterbacks, if he let it rip. Does it stick between the ears? It's like kickers. Like quarterbacks have to recover after interceptions too.
Yep, he let it rip after that. So it'll be interesting. Trente Jones is probably going to be out.
Is Nakai Hill-Green still out? Eric All's still out?
No idea. Probably still out. Eric All's probably going to be out for the season, which stinks. It sounds like it's a back injury.
Schoonmaker has done a nice job filling it. I like him. He's done a great job as like an underneath quick target. Honigford has done a nice job as like that extra blocking tight end. Obviously, he has experience as an offensive lineman for Michigan, so that helps. Yep. But then we've already been seeing a lot of Colston Loveland as well, and Max Bredesen been playing quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, in fact, they've all usurped Hibner, even who I thought Hibner could do pretty good.
Yeah, it's a deep tight end room. We'll see. Roman Wilson should be back, which will help a lot. He had 2 touchdowns against Penn State last year,
he was kind of a last-minute decision, so it kind of made me think it was kind of he was probably going to.
He didn't make the trip to Indiana, but it sounds like I don't think he's in concussion protocol. I think he's just
either did Alan Bowman though, right? They were running 3 quarterbacks last week.
Yeah, that's fine. If JJ gets hurt, the game's over anyway, in my opinion. But
trust Davis Warren enough, man. I am on that Davis Warren Kool-Aid, man. Right, those cancer survivors, John Lester, James Conner, Trey Mancini, they're all great.
All right, I'm all aboard the Davis Warren.
Cancer, that chemotherapy gives some kind of skill, dude. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it might be. But overall, I do pick Michigan to win. I could see it being like a 24-20 game too. I could see it being close. But if Michigan wins this, I think this will kind of not necessarily silence haters. I don't think it really will, because I don't love this Penn State.
There's always haters. There's always haters.
And I think we can discuss this. The goalposts continue to move every time Michigan.
It was a home game.
Penn State's not that good. Iowa's still considered statistically top 5 defense, and we essentially easily won that game.
And Maryland still wins a lot of their. I think Maryland's they lost 2 or they only lost to us.
Lost 2 games. They're 4-2. They lost to Purdue last week.
That's right. That was a battle down to the wire too.
Yeah. So we're going to move the goalposts for every game that Michigan wins. And you talked about it. Hey, they did move down in the AP poll. It doesn't really matter right now. The college football playoff rankings are the biggest ones, but you win this game, it's top 10 win. If they get through this game, they should be undefeated going to Columbus.
It should be. Yeah, I mean, still worry about Michigan State every time.
Still worry about Michigan State, but they are bad. They are bad. And
They
you have
are.
a bye week before playing them.
I think they're only prepping for us. That's what you worry about, though. Are they only prepping for us?
Yeah, they probably are, but they are bad. They are a horrendous team. You can't lose that game at home at night after a bye week. Absolutely not.
How about Yabi Yoki getting significant playing
that's
time?
another thing you can talk about. I think this pass rush is developing. They have more sacks. They have like 8 more sacks at this time than they did last year. I think it's 7, actually. They have 15
everybody's
sacks.
getting there. I mean, Mozzie Smith has been huge in the middle, but then you get Mike Morris on the edge has done a nice job, and Yabi Yoki is finally coming into his own. It kind of showing
7 sacks last week, and it was by 7 different guys.
Jalen Harrell's been nice on the edge. Like I said, Chris Jenkins, Mozzie Smith in the middle. You know, we're seeing like other freshman players step up too. Jimmy Rolder, Mason Graham have played. You know, obviously Will Johnson's playing quite a bit. You know, I want to say Kenneth Grant's playing too.
Yes, he played a lot last week.
Yeah, so it's like it's nice to see like this promise too. Some of these true freshmen.
Yeah, part of that was Indiana ran like 90 plays, and
so did Michigan though. I saw it was the most offensive plays Michigan's ran all year, and it was the most defensive plays they've had all year.
Yeah, and part of that's just Indiana runs at hyper speed, and you know they
do a lot of passing and complete stop the clock.
Yep. But you know, so you got to cycle through some of those defensive linemen. But yeah, I mean, I think this kind of goes back to what Jim Harbaugh said before the season. He thought it could be a better defense overall than it was last year, and I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I still question some of the linebacker play beyond Junior Colson, but it's kind of a no-star defense, right? There's nobody that's just standing out yet, but you know, overall they're producing even at a higher level, you know, from a sack standpoint right now than they did last year, which is impressive because last year Aiden Huckinson's, you know, David Ajabo was kind of a late bloomer, right? And I'm kind of hoping we see that kind of out of Yabioki as we kind of continue here. Maybe he could be a 10 sack guy by the end of the year if things continue. He's got to kind of have a couple games in a row where put up multiple, and suddenly you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, this guy's really coming on. Mike Morris, same kind of thing. You know, Derek Moore had a sack last week. I like Derek Moore a lot as a freshman. So they've got a lot of pieces. It's just kind of keep growing. And then on offense, you know, Donovan Edwards, getting him back fully healthy is nice to see. They're using him in the slot a lot, which I love, with Blake Corum at the same time. And then just kind of finding those receivers. Andrell Anthony, keep him coming along. He had a couple catches last week. And then just riding, to me, I know people are like, man, we got to use A.J. Henning more. A.J. Henning is not a great receiver. Okay, he's just not. He's a good gadget player. He's a great
returner.
Really good returner. But to me, the top receivers are still Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, and Ronnie Bell.
And then Andrell Anthony.
And then Andrell Anthony would be fourth, right? Yeah. And those are the 4 guys, in my opinion, that need to be out there catching balls. And then you can throw A.J. and Henning in there here and there. You know,
you can throw a Darius Clemens in there, Maureen Walker.
Right, I like the other guys, but to me, they're still a year away, right? You've got Ronnie Bell.
I think they might be trying to save their red shirts. I've noticed they haven't played in a while at all.
Yeah, so. That's fine.
And that's why Donovan Edwards coming back is huge, because they can throw him in there instead as that personnel.
He's probably a better receiver than all of them right now, I'll be completely honest. He might be he could be Michigan's best receiver, honestly.
Ooh, hot take. I mean, like I said, Ronnie Bell's good for a drop every week, but he's also he's been really good overall.
He's been very good. He had 11 catches last week. So I'm pretty happy with the receiver room, and I was pretty happy with the offense overall. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is still completing 78% of his passes. It's pretty crazy.
I think just seeing how that interception didn't really get into his head, he was able to bounce right back and play it better than he had all game.
He's not ever going to be a mental case, you know. And this might be one of those games where it's like, hey, JJ, you got to go out there and win the game for us. And I think he can do that. Ideally, I'd love for Blake Corum to go run for 200 yards and we don't have to worry about it. But
Not against Penn State, probably, but
Probably not going to happen. It's just not against.
I'll take 85 yards and a touchdown from Corum at this point.
I think he runs for over 100.
Ooh, probably on 34 carries.
I think he runs for over 100. He's gonna rip off a big one or two. I mean, he had almost 100 yards on that first drive last week. So, so I think he gets over 100. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Michigan's got a lot still left in the bag on offense, so they can pull out. So it'll be really fun game. Great environment. I'm sure it'll be pretty raucous. We get Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson on the call for the 20,000 straight.
I love it.
So yeah,
dude, I'm a Gus Johnson guy, man. Joel
I don't
Klatt's
think they're gonna follow them the next. Well, they might be at the Michigan State game too. You never know.
Dude, I'm hoping for a noon game because I got a concert at church I got to go to.
It'll be a 7. I almost guarantee you it's gonna be a night game.
No, don't speak it into existence.
Sorry, it's just I think it's going to be.
Man,